It's all over the news right now. Massive condo and townhome projects getting canceled halfway through construction. Words like bankrupt, insolvent, creditor protection, they're being thrown around like confetti. But what does any of that actually mean? And if you're a buyer who's already signed a new construction condo purchase, or even worse, already put money down, you're not alone if you're feeling unsure. I've been getting messages from people asking, is my builder next? Or should I still even buy new construction? What am I supposed to watch for? Well, that's exactly what we're going to get into in today's video. We're going behind the scenes of what happens when a project runs into trouble and how you can protect yourself from being caught in the fallout. Whether you're already in a deal or thinking about buying, this will give you the tools you need to make a smarter, safer decision. If that all sounds good, let's get into it right now.
You only get one chance to buy or sell your next home. Let's get it right.
Hey, it's worth mentioning, my name is Darren, a real estate professional serving the White Rock and South Surrey area since 2007. And since then, I've helped hundreds and hundreds of families make this exact decision. Is this the right place for you to call home? Including many who we first met right here on this YouTube channel. If you're thinking about making a move, feel free to reach out. There's no pressure, just local advice to help you make the right move for you and your family. Okay, so if you've been on this channel before, you've probably seen our past videos on the risks of buying pre-construction. I've been pretty clear. I'm not exactly waving the flag for pre-sales. In fact, I'm almost always against them pretty consistently. But in this video, it's going to be a little bit different. We're not just talking about risk. We're talking about what happens when that risk actually becomes reality. And that's not a hypothetical anymore. This is happening right now across the province of British Columbia. Projects getting canceled, towers frozen mid-build, and buyers completely left in the dark. So you might be asking yourself, well, what is causing all this? Why are so many developments falling apart at the same time? And more importantly, how do you spot the warning signs before your deal is the next one on the chopping block? The truth is there's rarely just one reason that a project collapses. It's usually a chain reaction. But there's kind of 6 more common triggers that you're gonna see, and sometimes these stack on top of each other. One is failure to secure financing. If the builder can't lock in funding from a bank or a private lender, the project either doesn't get off the ground or it stalls halfway through. The second is rising construction costs. If labor, materials, or insurance spike too far beyond budget, the whole thing can be financially impossible for the builder. The third is zoning or permit issues. Delays in city approvals or unexpected zoning changes can throw the project back to square one, racking up extra costs and lost time. The fourth is not enough pre-sales generally. The lenders typically need a certain number of units sold before they'll release funds. And if sales slow down, the money dries up. Number 5, the developer becomes insolvent. In other words, they can't pay their bills and they run out of options. And the last, number 6, is the market shifts. When buyer confidence drops and banks tighten lending, developers can't move forward even if they want to. Any one of those can kill a deal, or a new construction project in this case, but most of the time it's a combination. Slower sales, higher costs, and a cautious lending environment all piling up at once until the developer just completely hits a wall. Now, not every troubled project gets canceled. Sometimes they just stall. And that might mean developers scrambling to find new financing, renegotiate with the trades, or just waiting for the market to improve. And while the site might technically still be alive, here's what that looks like from the buyer's view. You could get a contract amendment or extension. Basically, the developer is asking for more time and maybe sliding in a few term changes while they're at it. If delays go beyond a certain limit, you might have a legal right to back out and get your deposit back, but that depends entirely on your contract and disclosure, and not all situations qualify. You also might have a mortgage rate hold. Well, that could expire. So if you locked in a great rate a year ago and now the build is delayed, you could be facing a much higher rate when it finally completes. And if you're familiar with what assignments are, and we've got lots of videos on our channel about assignments, assignment restrictions usually stay locked in. So if you were hoping to flip the contract or assign it, or just generally things have changed for you, you might be the one who's stuck holding the bag. Bottom line, when a project stalls, so does your life. And that uncertainty can drag on for months, even years, and you're left refreshing news updates instead of planning your move in. So, before I move on to the next section of this video where things go from bad to worse, if you're even thinking about buying a home in BC, new construction or not, you're going to want to grab a copy of 21 Grants and Rebates for Home Buyers, our free PDF. We've pulled together every federal, provincial, and niche program we could find, packed with links, insider tips, and quick ways to save money on your next purchase. Or maybe it's your first purchase. But the good news is this is totally free for you to download and it could save you thousands. So the link for that is in the description below. So go ahead and download it right now. Now, let's talk about what happens when things go from bad to worse. That's where terms like insolvency, bankruptcy, and receivership come in. And they're not all really the same thing. So what are they? Well, insolvency is just a financial condition. It means the developer can't pay their debts when they're due, or they owe more than they own. They don't have to file anything in court. They might still be shopping for a lender or partner, but it's usually when the red flags start flying. Things like construction milestones getting missed, or the sales team goes completely silent. Things like multiple contract amendments start hitting your inbox and piling up in your emails. Or what about the showroom mysteriously closing down? Or liens start showing up on the title of the property. Now, there's also a term called bankruptcy, and bankruptcy is the legal collapse. Either the company files voluntarily or creditors force it in. And once that happens, a trustee takes over, presale contracts are usually disclaimed or terminated, the project is liquidated, and creditors get paid based on legal priority. And buyers like you, well, you're waiting for your deposit to come back, but you have zero ability to force them to build. And if you spent money on things like legal fees, upgrades, or locking in a rate, yeah, well, that's considered an unsecured claim, which in reality means you're probably not getting that money back. And the third kind of legal limbo, so to speak, well, there's something called receivership, or CCAA, which stands for Companies Creditors Arrangement Act, which is protection in larger projects. This is sort of the middle ground between bankruptcy and insolvency. So what happens? Well, a court-appointed receiver steps in, usually on behalf of a lender, and tries to restructure or sell the project. Sometimes the build gets completed. Other times it's sold to a new developer who may offer new contracts to buyers, but almost always at higher prices, with new timelines and with no obligation to honor the original deal. So why does all this matter? Well, because if the developer is only insolvent, your contract might still be valid. Things are shaky, but there's hope. But if they're in bankruptcy or receivership, your contract is almost certainly dead. Now, there is a little bit of good news here. Your deposit is supposed to be held in trust, so it's protected in most cases under BC law. But make sure your specific deal actually falls under the Real Estate Development Marketing Act, because not every presale does. And the timeline for getting it back, that depends on how messy the legal process gets. So let's say the worst has happened. The project's been canceled. So what now? Well, first, your deposit comes back, but eventually, as long as it's held in trust, and it should be, if the developer followed the rules, you'll get it back. But if there's a court process involved, it might take longer than you might expect. Next, you'll likely be asked to sign a mutual release. This officially ends the contract so they can return your funds, but read it very, very carefully. Some developers try to sneak in waivers that go way beyond what's needed. So you're going to want to get your real estate professional or your lawyer to review that before you ever sign off. And here's the reality check. Even if you wanted the unit, even if it's now worth more money, you can't force the developer to build it. Presale contracts are written to protect the builder, not the buyer. One of the many reasons that we recommend people completely stay away from these. And lastly, any extra money that you spent preparing for this deal, that's probably gone too. We're talking things like lawyer fees, inspection costs, upgrade deposits, mortgage rate holds, even extended rent while you're waiting for the project to complete. It's all completely out of pocket. You can technically file a claim, but unsecured creditors usually get paid last, if at all. So what can you do to avoid all of this mess. Doesn't sound like a lot of fun, right? Well, if you're already under contract on a new development or even just considering new construction, here are some red flags that you may watch out for. Things like multiple delays or vague amendments. What about construction falling behind schedule with no real explanation? Or long periods of silence from the developer? Or what about sales center closures or disappearing staff? We talked about liens on title earlier and also lenders backing away from projects. Now, none of these guarantee a collapse, but if you're seeing more than one, you should be asking some pretty serious questions. Also, don't overlook the disclosure statement. In BC, every developer is required to give you one. If your contract is covered under REDMA, it lays out the timelines, the terms, and the risks. And if they don't meet a material term in that document, you might have a right to cancel your contract. But those rights have deadlines. And if you've signed amendments, that can change what you're entitled to. So bottom line, new construction can work, but only if you go in with your eyes wide open. Watch for red flags, read everything before you sign, and don't be afraid to ask for help from your agent, your lawyer, or even someone who's been through it before. Because once a project goes sideways, you lose complete control. You're no longer driving, you're reacting, and scrambling to fix things way after the fact is not where you want to be on these things. Now, if you're wondering how to protect yourself before you even sign a contract, well, that's exactly what I'm going to cover in the video coming up next. The three very best things that a developer can offer a home buyer just like you. And here's the twist. None of them have anything to do with the unit itself. These are things that smart, well-protected buyers are negotiating, and if you're not asking for them, you're missing your biggest leverage. That video is coming up right now, and you're gonna wanna hear all about this before you ever walk into another sales center. I'll see you over there. People continue to not listen to my recommendations to not purchase new construction property when buying a home.